right, so welcome everybody. Some more people joining in. Already 10 people in here. Let's give it another couple of minutes and we can get started, okay? For now, anything you want, I think you can raise your hand to talk. You have that option. And you can also just write it on the chat for everybody to read or me individually. Some names I recognize in here. Good to see you all again. $13. All right. So let me start sharing my screen. Can everybody see my screen? Oops, 1 second. Yes, okay, so you can see Lucas's picture, yeah? Still getting used to Zoom webinars. All right, perfect. All right, so let's begin. Thanks, Adina. So hopefully you can all see the presentation. Welcome, everybody. I see some familiar names in there, so welcome back if you've already been with us. Today we're going to have the pleasure to chat to Lucas Hauptmann. I hope I said that right. Essentially, he works at Salesforce. He's in a rotation program. He's going to tell us a little bit about it. And right now his title is an enterprise business developer at Salesforce. So he's going to give us a little bit of inside information, what a career at Salesforce looks like, you know, and exactly what it is like to work at Salesforce. But before we do that, I'm going to give a very brief introduction for those of you who are new. It should take 5 to 10 minutes. I'll make it short today, as I know some of you have already seen this a couple of times. But for all the new ones, I'm going to give a very brief introduction first onto why we are here. The second one, I will do a brief introduction to tech sales, what it actually is for those of you who don't know. And then we'll jump straight in and we'll have around 20 minutes to half an hour interview with Lucas, and you will have the opportunity to ask Lucas any questions you want right after the interview. In the meantime, if you want to interact, you have the option to raise your hand, to chat. Please raise your hand, and whenever I'll give you the word so that you can ask any questions you might have. Feel free to stop us anytime. We hate webinars where we're doing all the talking. So if you want to chime in and jump in, please raise your hand to chat. Or the other thing that you can do is write something directly on the chat. I can see the chat here in front of me. So whenever I see a question, and that's actually the ideal way to do it, please just write on the chat, let me know of the question, and I'll answer it directly. Okay? Somebody give me a thumbs up or an okay through the chat so that I know that I'm talking to somebody. Yes, who can be first? Perfect. All right, that's great. Let's start. So you might have heard the phrase that software is eating the world. It's a very famous phrase by tech entrepreneur Marc Andreessen. He's the founder of Andreessen and Horowitz, one of the biggest VC firms in Silicon Valley. Essentially, what it means is that technology is taking over the world, right? If you go back 20 years and you look at the top companies in the world, 20 years ago, only one of them was a tech company. Same story in 2006, same story in 2011. 2016, suddenly all of the companies in the top 5 are tech companies. And we fast forward to today, 8 out of the 10 top companies in the world are 8 out of the top tech companies in the world are actually tech companies. Now, you might think that these companies are looking only for tech talent, but that's absolutely not correct, right? So it's a common misconception, but almost half of the jobs at these kinds of companies are actually non-technical. And most of those are sales jobs, which is essentially why we started High-Rise Academy, right? There is a surplus of demand, in this case, of sales talent for these companies, and not enough demand, not enough supply to meet that demand. And it's only forecasted to grow more into the future. It's forecasted that there will be 9.2 million job openings in tech sales by 2030. Now, our question was, why aren't people flocking to these jobs, right? There was actually a very cool study by a psychologist where he said he found that 20%, so 2 people out of 10 that you meet on the street are actually very well suited to work in these jobs. They have the skills to work in these jobs. So why are they not doing it? We identified 3 main blockers. The first one is sales has a very negative image. You think of sales, especially in Germany, and you think of pushy people. And as we'll see, that's absolutely not true, right? Sales is, within the tech environment, a profession that's more focused on helping people solve problems that they need. The second one is there's no clear path. There's no clear, you can't study sales at university. There's no clear educational path that can take you into sales. So that's another thing that we're trying to change. And the third one is there is restricted job access. So some companies still require you to have a degree, while it's been proven that it's absolutely not necessary to have a degree. And that's how we were born. So in a nutshell, essentially what HireRise Academy does is we take people, we don't care what you've studied, your age, your background, your gender, anything. All we care about is, do you have the skills necessary to turn you into a great salesperson and lead a fulfilling sales career? We look at curiosity, coachability, what your work ethic is like, your drive and your empathy. Then we put you through an intensive online bootcamp that is designed to get you from 0 to job ready in the shortest time possible. So you perform real sales at a real company. I encourage you to chat to some of the students that are here. Rohit knows, he's already almost through the program, and he's been doing real world sales for a real company for that whole time. You get individual coaching by experts from the industry, and you get individual feedback on all the assignments that you put in. You work in very small squads of 3 to 5 people, and you can do it online at your own pace. You only have to meet on Mondays for 1 hour and on Fridays for another hour. And then you can take the course, do the assignments and take the course at your own pace during the rest of the week. Now, once you graduate, we place you directly at our network of hiring partners, which right now includes 30 plus hiring partners, mostly around Europe. Like I said, our number one goal and what drives us is getting people from 0 to job ready in the shortest time possible. And we actually have a promise, which basically is, if you don't land a job, you pay nothing. And you pay only when you land a job. We want to make education accessible, personalized, and designed for employability for everybody. So enough about us, because I imagine you've already heard about it. Let's do a brief introduction into tech sales for those of you who have no idea what tech sales is. So what is tech sales? Tech sales is a very generic term, right? That essentially means selling products, platforms, services associated with technology. And it's usually in a, so that can mean anything. It can mean selling software. It can mean selling hardware. It can mean selling services. And you can do it in a B2B environment or in a B2C environment. When we talk about tech sales, we usually mean selling SaaS products, so software as a service products within a B2B or business to business environment. Now, let us break it down. So B2B means selling from business to another business directly, and SaaS is software as a service. Software as a service was born 10, 15 years ago, more or less, and it completely revolutionized many different industries. Why? Because it made software available without having to invest in a lot of resources to make it. So for example, before Shopify existed, if you wanted to build an e-commerce, right, you needed to invest in a internal team, you needed to build an app, you needed an e-commerce gateway, you needed to buy your own servers and host them in a physical location. Now you can do everything for 60 euros a month. So it's been growing absolutely like crazy. An average mid-sized company spends $20,000 per month on a SaaS subscription. And probably the very first SaaS company that existed was Salesforce. So I'm very glad to be chatting to Lucas today, because he can tell us a little bit more inside information from the first company, right? That was the first CRM that was made available through the cloud, hence the logo. Curiosity for some of you. Now, how is sales done at these companies? Like I said, sales has a very negative image. And when you think of sales, you probably think of the old model of sales. You think of the Wolf of Wall Street, pushy people trying to trick people into buying stuff they don't need. And very charismatic people, doing all the sales. And this is absolutely not true. Within a tech sales environment, essentially you rely on a process that I'm going to cover briefly now, and you're focused on solving people's needs, understanding their worldview, and trying to qualify or disqualify them as to whether it makes sense to spend time with each other as early on in the process as possible. And that's what sales is all about. So I love this diagram because it puts tech sales into perspective. This is a new one. So for the ones that have already heard a little bit about us, this is a new diagram and a way that I love to explain it, right? So there's this concept essentially called the buyer's journey. And the buyer's journey is the different stages that a buyer goes through when they are making a decision for purchase. And then there's certain activities and objectives we do as companies to try and nurture somebody from the moment that they realize they have a problem or need to the moment that they are considering different options, and then until they make a decision. So when a person is realizing they have a need, what we're trying to do is attract them into the funnel. So we call those people leads, right? And we call that activity lead generation. Once we have generated the leads, we have their email, we're in contact with them. What we try to do in the next stage, which is consideration stage, is qualify and engage the people. And so we try to see, okay, does this person qualify as a valid lead for me to keep spending time on, or do they not? And we have two different metrics in there, which are qualified leads once they're qualified, and prospects once they have expressed interest in our service or product. And then the last one, once we have already spoken to them and everything, we are focused on converting, on closing that sale. There's different activities that marketing teams and sales teams do to bring that process and follow those objectives to life. I'm not going to cover marketing. I just want you to know that it exists. And in some industries, it's more predominant than others. But in some industries, they only do sales, for example. And as this is a tech sales course and we're focusing on sales, I will cover mostly the sales ones. And then we can talk to Lucas now and he can tell us which of these is he doing and how he's doing, how they do this at Salesforce, which is also very interesting for me. So what do you do? What sales activities do you do at each stage in the funnel? So to generate leads, we do what we call outbound prospecting or outbound lead generation, which is essentially trying to capture leads that might be interested in our product or service. And we do that through three main ways. The first one is cold calling, which is the most old school and the one that scares most people, but probably the most effective and the most efficient. It gives you a direct line of communication with your prospective customer and the fastest way to know whether they're interested or not. The second one would be cold email. And the third one, and the one probably most predominant now, is called social selling, mostly through LinkedIn. Now, once we have captured the interest of a lead through one of these channels, what do we do? Do we automatically sell with them? We don't, because they are still in consideration stage. They're still not ready to be sold. What we need to do and what we want to do is qualify them. Do they have the budget to spend in our solution? Are they the right person to make the decision? Are they the decision maker? Do they really have a need that we can cover and solve? And is it a right time for them? Now, if they answer, if we know yes to all of these questions, it makes sense to continue the relationship with them and try to take them to close. If they don't, then it doesn't make sense to continue the sale. And we do this through something that we call discovery calls. And in those discovery calls, which is what most junior salespeople spend doing, what you do is you jump on calls with prospective customers and you ask a lot of questions, right? A good salesperson is the one that's doing most of the asking and where the customer is doing most of the talking. And that is how you know that they are engaged. And you do that through those discovery calls. Now, say you do the discovery call and you say, okay, this person is very well qualified. You know, they hit the 4 criteria. Okay, then you would do a demo call where you actually showcase your product and how it can help solve that specific person's needs. And then you would jump to sending a proposal, a lot of follow-ups, negotiation, and closing. Okay, that was a lot. Now, I'm just going to cover the 2 main sales roles, and then we'll bring Lucas in to tell us a little bit what his role is and how it falls within this funnel. So there might be instances in several companies where one single person does all the activities. They do cold calling, cold emailing, social selling, also the demos, also the closing. Now, in a traditional SaaS organization, the roles and responsibilities are very well distributed and they're very distinct depending on the role that you have. The most common ones is having people for the top of the funnel, so doing prospecting and doing the discovery calls. And these would be sales development representatives and business development representatives. And then at the bottom of the funnel, so in charge of doing the demos and closing, would be account executives. So very interested to see now Lucas is listening in there, if how you fit into this organization and how Salesforce does things, essentially. In terms of skills, there's a lot of talk about what skills are important and are not. We identified the 5 that we think are most important. I won't go through them. I'd rather get to chatting to Lucas today, but you can see them there. Their curiosity, their empathy, coachability is the ability to receive feedback and act upon it. Drive, do you have that motivation? And of course, communication, because you're constantly communicating. So in a nutshell, tech sales is fulfilling work, not pushing people, not tricking people. It's actually helping people solve problems. The pay is great. The numbers that you see here is for Germany, and we take the data directly from LinkedIn salaries. So I recommend you go and you do the search for yourself, so that we're not saying it, but you actually see it from the source on LinkedIn salaries. There's huge demand. We can't stress this enough. That's why we have the 30 hiring partners and people reaching out to us constantly. And most important of all, it's open for everybody. So I encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to apply and chat to us and see, if it's a good fit for you or not. Cool. All right, that was a lot in a small amount of time. You can ask any questions directly, but what I'm going to do right now is bring Lucas on stage. And I will stop sharing my screen.
Yes, that worked, I guess.
Lucas, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time. Huh?
Yeah, thank you as well for having me.
Of course. I always love your background, man. I love the mascot. Does he have a name?
That's Cody. Well, we have plenty of those mascots. I'm not here to talk about them today, but
okay, that's beautiful. All right, Lucas, let's get right to it, right? And I know people want to know a lot more about you specifically and what you do, and of course about Salesforce. So maybe let's start at the beginning. Tell us a little bit about you, your story. We have a beautiful value at Hi-Res, which is called love people and their stories. And we love to listen to people's stories. So maybe tell us yours. What did you study and how did you end up in Salesforce and where you are now?
Yeah, actually, I started working, my whole working career started in hospitality. At 16 years old, I started working at a restaurant, bartending, table service. Was really interested in also working at a 5-star hotel in Munich to maybe get some experience in the whole hotel management. And I really was looking into a career in that. But as per my parental background, they both have been or still are working in tech sales for over 40 years now. So always had like a connection, and I knew what was going on there and what my possibilities were to get into that industry. And when I got thinking about how I can develop myself and develop more skills or have a better, more innovative career than in hospitality, I really took a turn in 2019. That's when I started working at Salesforce. Still now in a dual study role, which means I'm doing a whole bachelor degree in economics and computer science, parallelly to working at Salesforce full time. I'd say for now I've completed all my lessons, all my seminars, which means until next year I'll be working full time for Salesforce in business development.
Very cool. All right. How was the selection process at Salesforce, just out of curiosity?
I'd say it's cool. Like the whole environment at the company is really casual. In Germany, we often have those hierarchies. You really don't feel that working for a tech company at Salesforce. And I would say you can copy that to other companies in the whole tech industry. Maybe in Germany, some people will experience something different. Mm-hmm. I really thought you get taken along with the people, which I think really helps. And everybody, I would recommend to everyone just try to talk somebody working at the company prior to your interviews. I would say that really helps, just preparing, getting to know what's asked.
Mm-hmm. And one last question before we get into your day-to-day and what you're doing right now, right? What was your motivation to get into tech sales? Aside, of course, from your family, right, working in it, you probably had some insider information, but what made you want to get into tech sales?
I think really the independency, not only financially, I mean, that's always a factor, but also in regards to the career path. So the opportunities you get when starting your career in tech sales. You've already explained some roles, and there are so many more. At Salesforce, if I had to dive into that, that would me take more than 1 hour, I guess. And that's just, I think, my biggest motivation, to have the opportunities to choose what you're doing. And I just, myself personally, I got so inspired by the whole business development role, and as well the sales career. So that's why I stuck with it for over a year now, and I'm just super happy.
Beautiful. All right. Tell us, Lucas, and let's dive a little bit deeper, right, into your day-to-day since you started. So what have you been doing up till now?
Yeah, well, I started in a rotation, so I get an idea of the different roles, especially the business development representative, but also got a great view of the account executive, what their job is, and the handover process there is. Because as a business development representative, what I do right now, you're really the first point of contact for our customers. Meaning I do not only outbound, but as well there are some inbound activities. I mean, if the people already are interested in us, that's possibly the best situation for selling, if the customers already interested in our products and our solutions. And from there on, I'm really also trying to get more in between, or get to work together with the account executive role, to get more experience beyond the whole discovery part. So also doing joining the demo sessions. Also hosted one demo on my own, which I thought really exciting. But as well, trying to get to know what the account executive does as well in the whole negotiation process, because you learn a lot more about your customers.
Great. And so what activities are you doing, just out of curiosity, for outbound, and how are those going? Or which one works better for you, right? And what percentage do you get inbound and outbound?
It depends on the industry, actually. I'm currently more in the financial services part, but just this week I also joined the professional services. We get a whole lot more inbound leads for the professional services industry. So meaning from there on, you can do, I do a whole lot more of calling, which I think is the best part about it, because it just makes it a whole lot more fun, and you get the instant feedback from a customer, and you know what's going on. Other than that, we're really, I mean, LinkedIn is possibly one of the best platforms to do social prospecting. Not always in Germany, as we always have, I don't know if you know about Crossing or Xing, which is a similar network. And it's really used by many German companies. And very often you don't find people on LinkedIn, and you really have to go on Xing. But I mean, it's the same doing, writing basho emails and so on.
Nice. So a lot of social selling then, I would imagine, for outbound.
Okay. As a first step, and then always like trying to reach a customer.
And the discovery call, do you have any specific, how do they work, right? So what does a discovery call look like? Are you looking for specific qualification criteria, or how do you run a discovery call right now?
That will be best. I think the outbound activities, especially in enterprise, you should come prepared. So first take a deep look into your customers, who you're talking to. So now, whether it's a salesperson, it's a person from HR, from finance, what their KPIs are, so you can relate our solutions and present them value, what value we can deliver to them. Other than that, as well, like cold calling, I feel it's difficult, especially as our brand, our company is not very, it's not well known in Germany. Like if I must say, yeah, this is Lucas from Salesforce, most of the time I get the answer, yeah, no idea what you're doing. Please give me an introduction. Wow. Yeah, absolutely. So that makes it sometimes difficult. So the first part of the call will always be like trying to get a brief brief introduction about Salesforce, and then just trying to figure out what the issue is the customers have, and then trying to find the solution Salesforce can offer, and then just trying to get them to have further conversations with us. So try to convince them that we can generate value for their issues.
Okay, makes sense. What is it that you enjoy, and be honest with this one, the most, and you enjoy the least right now of your job?
Yeah, well, the least definitely activity logging. I mean, we sell a solution, our sales cloud, meaning you have to log all your activities, prospecting emails, you log your calls. Doesn't matter whether you reached anyone, you still have to log it, because it's said if you don't log it, it never happened. So if you want to show your manager that you're actually working, you should definitely do that. But it's just some manual work, not very joyful. Other than that, I feel like customer presentations are the most amazing thing, especially the part when seeing the customer really seeing what value we can deliver to them, and they're trying to get into it, and like they're just becoming more into Salesforce as well, and want to know more and do business with that.
Okay, makes sense. And diving a little bit more into Salesforce, right? So that we understand. And I'm also curious. I don't know if you know, because it's probably so big that it might be difficult to understand, right? But how many sales positions, like different sales positions, do you have? Because you mentioned, right, it gets very complex, but in a general level, do you have that SDR? Do you have different levels of SDRs? Do you have different account executives by industry, or how does it work?
Yeah, I can definitely dive into that. So we do have a role even above and below the SDR, which is a business development associate, which is generally an first role for students to join. It works as an the first point of contact for the BDR as well. Like the BDR is trying to support the whole like getting leads into the sales funnel, prospecting for the BDRs, and doing first outreaches, and then handing them over to the business development, which is more for the whole enterprise part. Then the SDR role is really more aiming at, or the sales development representative is primarily contacting in we call it emerging small businesses, so meaning startups basically. And they're really only working on inbound activities. So the SDR's job is to call the whole day, and then maybe send emails afterwards if they do not have enough prospects in the pipeline for them to call. And then, as I said, the BDR role is the next step after the SDR. So where you would do more also strategic part and doing outbound activities for your account executives, and then also maybe developing necessary skills to essentially become an account executive, which then will be the next step. And you said the demo was held by account executive. At Salesforce, we even have a special role, our solution engineers, which are our experts for our solutions. It's not that our solutions are that complex, but they're just simply so many that it's difficult to be an expert at everything. So that's why we have those roles. They're more technical, but still selling in the part. They're really supporting the account executive already in the discovery, like trying to figure out more use cases and how to fit them to our solutions, and then create an amazing demo for the customer to really see themselves and to see how they can profit from using Salesforce solutions.
That's super interesting. But one of the things we tell our students, right, when we're teaching them to do demos, is don't, and for Salesforce it would be impossible, but for other you can do it. But we tell them, don't just spill out every single feature that you have, right? You should have done a good job of knowing exactly what pain points they have, what features can solve those, and focus on those. So that's something that you probably do. Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, so it's a very, very structured career path. Do you know more or less, do you always have to start as a BDA, or can you start directly as an SDR or even a BDR?
I honestly believe it depends on how many different experiences you already have. And I feel in the end, always apply. And that's what I said in the beginning. Try to talk to people already working at the company and trying to get into the access point, because we're always there to help other talents to join our company. So many possibilities.
Okay, that's great. And what's the culture like? I don't think anybody from Salesforce is here, so you can be honest. No, I'm kidding. I know it's a good one. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, that's true. We really are a value-driven company. We don't only talk about them. We really try to live them, especially equality. There's a chance for everyone. That's what we really try to live at our company as well. And I feel like I've never had issues at all with my colleagues. There's a really great open-mindedness about everything, as well. The giving back part at our company, we try to volunteer, and we even get encouraged. So we get specific VTO, so volunteering days to like holidays. So we get free time to do some volunteer work. Where, for example, we did social work for the Munich Tafel, which gives food to people in need, which was one of my greatest experiences. Did a couple of times. I really like that the employer just supports these kind of activities as well.
Very cool, and very important, right? To work for a company where the culture resonates with yours. Yeah. All right. So a little bit more about you now, getting towards the end. Yeah. What has sales or this experience, right, with Salesforce so far taught you? Something that you can bring to your personal life, maybe?
The whole sales part definitely becoming way more organized, or getting a better structure. Because I feel like if you're structured, you're so far more efficient and far more successful in your whole sales and selling. And I really think my private life also profits from it. Just I think the sport part and everything, you get a better idea of getting up earlier, having a clear structure of your day. I think that just really helps, despite in the professional life, also in your private.
That's interesting, because sales before, right, it was so structured and so processed. They were notorious for being very unstructured and having. I have a friend of mine, one of my best friends. He works in sales. It's a very old school sales environment. Yeah, they have a big cold calling center, and they're constantly calling. And he doesn't have a calendar, which for me is crazy. How can you live without a calendar, right? No calendar. He just picks up the phone, and I always tell him, you should take high rise. We should teach you a little bit how to structure your day, and you would be so much more effective. But yeah, I agree. Modern sales processes definitely teach you to be much more structured. Cool. Lucas, what's next for you?
I'm definitely aiming to join the business development team next year in October. That's my goal for the next 9 months, I guess. Despite writing my bachelor thesis, but yeah, really looking forward to it.
So a lot on your plate, huh? What's your thesis on?
Oh, regulatory compliances in the financial services industry.
Okay, we'll dive deeper into Salesforce then.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm sure it's fascinating if you get into it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a connection for our sales processes and where our process could profit from some improvements regarding regulatory compliances, because it's in Germany. We are don't know how to say it, but our lawyers are really difficult to handle in negotiations. They always find something they want different than we can give them.
Okay, so it brings value to the company. That's great.
Yeah, that's the goal in the end. Absolutely.
Nice. All right, so let's get to recommendations, right? Who would you recommend that should get into tech sales?
I'd say anybody who likes to work with people. You said it before. Who's an empathetic person, who's open-minded, who's willing to learn every day. So motivation is a big part as well. And there's just so many opportunities. Especially if you start at one role, it doesn't mean you have to take that path. There are always different paths to take if your priorities change.
Cool. And what would you recommend that they do, for example, if they wanted to get into Salesforce, like to prepare? Or
yeah, definitely, like, hit me up on LinkedIn, or there's so many other people. Just hit us up on LinkedIn that you're interested in starting a career in sales. There's definitely going to be people helping you. I've never seen anyone who maybe didn't answer. Maybe they're going to tell you they have no time, but there's going to be another person. They're going to give you the right point of contact. And it's not only at Salesforce, as we have such a big partner ecosystem. So we, as Salesforce, we offer the solutions and the licensing, but the whole implementation part is done by so many partners all over the world, and they as well are looking for sales roles. So there's always an opportunity to always maybe go with a partner in your local town or whatever, and develop from there to join Salesforce.
Very cool. Okay, that's a good insight, definitely. All right, man. No more questions from my side. That was super insightful, super interesting. I'm gonna open it up now to see if anybody has any questions. You can raise your hand or you can write the question below. Christopher tells us he will be a part of Salesforce next year. That's cool, Christopher.
Awesome.
Congratulations. Let me. So I'm allowing everybody to talk now. Yeah. Clicking on the button in case you want to share. Christopher, how come you're joining? Oh, Lynn. Hi there.
Oh, do you hear me?
We can hear you. Yeah.
Ah, great. Hello, everybody. Yeah. I just write my question down. I hope it's the right English because I still learn. So my question is, how did you get through the, you call it doorkeepers? When you
or gatekeepers, I guess, right?
Yeah.
When you first make your first cold calls and there are the doorkeeper, how did you get the information you wanted?
I think the best way is always just try to get past the gatekeeper because you want to get to the right person.
Yes.
I think in my experience so far, it's always great to be really respectful with those because they maybe have also a stressful day. They get a lot of calls every day, so just stay very polite. What I like to do is ask them for help. So when they answer the phone, first of all, I try to understand their name so I can address them personally and direct so they feel valued. And then going with a way of, could you help me out with reaching your colleague XY? I think that really worked best for me so far.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Christopher is still raising his hand. Yeah.
Yeah, he is. But he just wrote that he has kids in the background and he cannot join right now to tell us. All right. Martin, any question? No.
There's one question in the chat about social selling and an alternative to cold calling.
There we go. Okay. So Rohit, how do you see social selling as an alternative to cold calling? I would like to know this specifically related to Salesforce.
Yeah, I'd say my managers always say this, never an alternative to calling, because calling is the best way, as Alvaro already said, to get the right information and get a direct response, especially getting a no early on really helps you just spending your time on the most valuable leads and not wasting your time with somebody if you just don't reach and maybe it's not even interested. So social selling is a good way to having having a compelling event with your prospect. So if you call them, you can relate to, yeah, I've already sent you a message, maybe they've read it or they have accepted your request by LinkedIn or Crossing. So I wouldn't say there's an alternative, but try to use it as a compelling event to get more calls or to already have a connection when calling. So it's not just, it's still a cold call, but they maybe remember who you are and have an idea about what you're calling already.
Great, thank you. We have some more questions. Jessica asks, is language a barrier? So is German specifically important?
If you want to work in Germany for the German market, yes, but that's just due to the issue of the German market. We're not really like to speak German, not really like to speak English. But for the other markets, there's no language barrier. If you're slightly fluent with English and your native language, you'll definitely find a job, as we're, for example, expanding big time in the Eastern countries. So there are definitely opportunities for people with different native languages and a little bit knowledge of English who can definitely do their career there good.
That's great. That's a great thing about being a bigger company, right? That you have probably your company language is probably English, you know?
Yeah. That's for sure,
and any other additional language that you have is of course a plus. Nice. All right. Adina asks us, do you have some specific KPIs to cold calling? Everybody's asking about cold calling, and or are they different to social selling? Or maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your KPIs in general.
Yeah, so we definitely do have KPIs primarily for, I'd say it's contacting people. So it's changed now that also social messengers are on the same level as a cold call or a call you did with a prospect. So if you get some information via a message, that's perfectly fine with you. So there are definitely KPIs on a specific number, but that also differs from the BDR, from the industry. Furthermore, you have KPIs on your opportunities. So prospecting is the one part, but converting them and qualifying them to become or to convert the lead to an opportunity is the great goal in the end. So we talk we often speak in sales stages. We do have 8 stages at Salesforce. The first stage is where the BDR does all the work. And his goal is to convert it to stage 2, where the customer is committed to talking further with Salesforce, like he has an issue, he maybe has already budget, and you're getting measured on those opportunities you source, and you also get to stage 2. So meaning a good discovery is really important to inform your account executive, who in the end is responsible for the customer or helping you achieve your KPIs. Nice.
And that's interesting. So you said now social contact is at the same level as cold calling contact? So
I don't know whether it's the same. It depends on the information. I think you always have to figure it out on your own and with your management how they're fine with. I think that can also depend.
Okay. Do you have a specific like quota that you need to hit for cold calling and a specific one for social selling, for example, or is it up to you?
Honestly, I'm not sure about that. I would have to ask my colleagues about that.
Okay. Cool. Good questions. I'm going to ask one too. What skills would you say are most important, or number two or three top skills, would you say?
Definitely social prospecting, know your tools, I guess. So how to use Sales Navigator or Crossing. So know how to find your prospects faster. Have a good structure. So get an overview of who you've already contacted. For us, we use our own CRM solutions, which helps you do that, as well as create cadences. At Salesforce, we call it high velocity sales, as well a new solution we sell already, which helps you define a cadence. So meaning first a social message, then a follow-up call, another message, follow-up call, and then you may be done with the lead and get on to the next one. So structure also really important. Yeah, and the willingness, coachability. I think that's a big part. That was also that I was told, and I think I still can work on that as well. Yeah.
Cool. All right, I think that's a perfect way to wrap it up. If there are no more questions, I don't see any more in there. Christopher still has his hand up, but if you have kids, Christopher, we can leave it for later. Alessandro thanks us. Very interesting. See you next week. So Lucas, thank you so much. It was really insightful. Thanks for sharing with us, and we wish you best of luck, but I don't think you need it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.